My cousin F24 falsely accused me, M31, of sexual assault. Now, my family is contacting me after almost 10 years. Hi, I've never had an account on Reddit before, but someone on another forum linked this subreddit and I've been reading some stories. If this is the wrong subreddit, please let me know. Also, English is not my first language, so bear with me. It's pretty much like the title says. I just feel so lost on what to do. This is tearing up wounds and an old rage is building up again. Let me give some backstory. I grew up in what was probably the most normal of normal households. Parents worked a lot, but still managed to care for me and my 3 older sisters. We were never super close as a family, but never had any issues either. Same goes for my extended family. They always lived a few hours away, but we saw each other during summer, holidays, or Christmas, and always got along great. But when we got older, we naturally grew apart as everyone had their own lives. I'm 31 now. In 2014, when I was 22 and attending university, I got a phone call from my mother that turned my life upside down. I remember I didn't even answer at first because I was gaming with friends, but she called again immediately after the first call. This was an unwritten rule in the family. If you call twice like that, it's important. Like someone died important. So when she called again, I excused myself and answered, only to hear chaos in the other end. Like people were arguing. But when my mom realized I had answered, it sounded like she went to another room and closed the door. I just asked what was going on and I heard she was crying. My memory of this conversation is a bit blurry, but she basically asked me if I had something to confess that regarding E. E is my cousin on my mom's side and is 7 years younger than me, 15 at the time. At that point, I hadn't seen E for several years. I just said no and asked what this is about. She just cried even harder and started accusing me of sexually assaulting E back when we were children, that E had told everything to my sister, and that my sister told my mother and my aunt. E had told them that back when she was 9 and I 16, she'd been playing in my room when I came in and started feeling her under her clothes and kissing her. My mother screamed at me to say something, but I couldn't even speak. It was also absurd. I remember thinking that this must be some bad joke. The last thing I remember saying was that it's not true and that E is lying. But then my mom goes on saying how that E gave such a detailed description of where and how, that she kept asking something like, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I just screamed back at her, "No," each time. It all ended with my mom putting me on speaker and both my mom and dad saying that they don't want anything to do with me and never to contact them again. 2 of my sisters texted me later that day, pretty much saying that I'm disgusting and then blocked me. I know it's weird, but after that call, I went to have a long shower. To this day, I still don't know why I did that. After calming down, I started calling and texting everyone, even E. No one answered, and the ones who hadn't blocked my number by then quickly did so. The only thing I heard back was from my father, who texted me to stop contacting them as that they needed to heal. That was 9 years ago, and I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that day. To say this effed me up is an understatement. I was living in a haze for weeks after that and hardly ate at all. It didn't help that this was right before I was supposed to defend my bachelor's thesis and was already stressed out. Luckily, my co-writer sensed something was up and saved me by controlling the conversation so that I got the easy parts. Without him, I'm sure I would have failed. Needless to say, no one came to my graduation. Then started the worst period of my life. I spent the first year expecting the cops to knock on my door and arresting me for sexual abuse. I didn't land any jobs, just living off of saved money. I drank a lot and did oxy. I also grew resentful and violent. The only reason I didn't hurt anyone is because no one was around. My neighbors called the cops on me once after I had smashed a glass, but I managed to convince the officers that I had just dropped it, and they went away since there was no one else in my apartment. Instead of sleeping, I spent my nights planning how I could hurt E and make sure no one ever found out. Even thinking how I could actually do the things she had accused me of. But much worse, I know I'm not proud of that. I landed my first real job in my field in late 2015. Only then did things start to improve. I focused all my time on my job as it gave me something normal to do. Recovery was a slow process, but I drank less, sober now for 4+ years, and smiled more. I lived cheap and earned good money, so I made a point of buying myself a nice gift for my birthdays, a VR headset, a motorcycle, Legos, etc. And the last year, I moved away from my crappy apartment and bought a small house. It was an old dream of mine to have my own garage and a garden to take care for. This has boosted me even more. So my life is okay now. I still got problems. I've been on antidepressants for the last few years, and while they help, it's not in a happy way. They simply remove the dark thoughts and replace them with the dead ones. My trust in other people is also close to non-existent. I've tried dating, but only been on 2 dates with 2 different women. It's really hard to speak like a normal person when it comes down to that. And what would I tell my potential partner when she asked about my family? Oh, they accused me of a heinous crime and we're not talking anymore, but I didn't do it, I swear. My field is very male-dominated, so the only woman I really speak to is my therapist, who I like a lot. If this text was difficult to follow, I apologize. I'm not good with words on the best of days, and I started rambling a bit when it all came back to me. It's already getting long, so I'll fast forward to my current issue. A few days ago, I received a text from my mother. It felt unreal, and I was scared to open it at first, so I just stared at the notification for hours before opening it. Yesterday, another text followed. Translated, they basically say, Text 1. Hi, my name. It's been so long since we talked. We miss you and want to know how you're doing. Here she writes a long text about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are getting big. I didn't even know I was an uncle. Knowing that we love you and always will. Mom and Dad. Text number 2. Hi, my name. We understand if you don't want to talk to us after what happened, but please listen. Last month, the subject of you was brought up at a family gathering. During this, E was downplaying everything that had happened to her. It got so awkward that she finally admitted that nothing happened and that she probably just dreamt it. We were all appalled by this. When we last spoke, we wanted to protect E and did the only thing we thought we could do. We know that's not excusing how you were treated. What E did was wrong and we're all angry at her. We have called everyone that we knew and told them the truth. We all want to speak with you and your sisters want you to meet their families. Please write back if you can find it in you to forgive us, Mom and Dad. So yeah, that's my situation right now. I haven't answered, but they no doubt know I've seen it. Truth be told, I'm seething. So many old, terrible memories are now stirring again. I don't want to forgive them, and I wouldn't trust myself to be in the same room as them right now. Part of me wants to call my family and unleash everything on them, to guilt them with everything I went through until they all hit their rock bottom, then dedicate my life to make my cousin's life as miserable as possible. The other part wants to ignore them and continue with my okay-ish lifestyle with my motorcycle and my garden to keep me company. Edit. I don't have any friends. The only people I speak to are my coworkers, but we're not really close. I've called my therapist's clinic, but they told me she's on vacation and won't be available for weeks. And I don't want to see anyone else other than her. So that leaves internet strangers. So please, where to go from here? Do I ignore them and continue as is, or do I answer? And if so, what to even write? I'm pretty sure meeting them in person would be a bad idea for the foreseeable future, but I'm not even sure how my life can improve from picking up those old threads. As embarrassing as it may sound, I've dreamed about the day when they apologized to be them throwing themselves to the ground and kissing my feet. Texting seems so anticlimactic now. TLDR, my cousin falsely accused me of sexually assaulting her when we were minors and I was disowned by my family. Now it has been revealed that it never happened and my family is contacting me and wants to make amends. I don't know how to respond. Edit. Holy crap, I went to bed yesterday after answering a couple of comments. I was happy then when someone just said to wait for my therapist to come back, something that had flown over my head. Now there's 1,300 comments. I can't possibly answer all, but I'll try to read all when I get home from work. I just want to address something I saw a few people mention, that my therapist wouldn't leave for that long without telling me. I don't know how this works in other places, but this is a state-run clinic, no hourly rate or anything. I got assigned to her first when going there, which means she will continue to get me on meetings that follows. But this is not 100%. If she's on leave or sick, I might get someone else after. 4 to 6 weeks of vacation is not uncommon. Edit 2. Some people have messaged me about an update video on TikTok. Please note that this is not me. All I have written is what you can see on this page. I'm mad. Oh man. Like, I get to read this post and move on, but this guy had to live with this for 10 years. That is just effed up. Good grief. Let's continue. Update. Hi, it's been a while since my last post, and I can't count the people asking me for an update, so I thought I'd post one. Even though there's not much to say, first, I'd like to get a few things out of the way. Thanks to all those who wrote and offered support and advice. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to all, but know that I've read them. Also, thanks to everyone who reached out to distract me with talks about my hobbies. I know I wasn't very responsive, but I know you all meant well. To the openly hostile ones, borderline threatening me to quit antidepressants and counseling me instead of accept insert religious figure here into my life, no. 2. Many people told me I should pursue legal action. I didn't mention this in my first post, but I decided against that long ago for a few reasons. Best case, she would get a slap on the wrist and I wouldn't gain much at all. I just don't think it's worth the legal headache, and if I somehow would end up losing, I'll owe her legal costs. 3. A lot of people have been messaging me about the fake updates. As I wrote in an edit to my other post, there are some fake updates on TikTok and YouTube. So if you saw something on other platforms that you didn't read in the text below or in the post linked above, it wasn't by me. While I don't really care about people making fake updates, I just want everyone that read my original post that these videos are not by me. Someone even claimed that they had access to my original post on r/relationships, which contained these updates. That is false. With that cleared up, I'll add what actually is going on with my life right now. Know that I wrote the original post in anger and because I was completely lost on what to do. I needed a kick to the head and I got that within like the first 5 to 10 comments. That was really all I needed. I've met my therapist. I was first scheduled for September, but she managed to move it and we've had 2 talks so far. She also read the original post and many of your comments. While she would have preferred me to confide in colleagues of hers, in the end she was glad you guys told me to calm down a bit and wait. She knows firsthand how I get when I get angry. I won't go through everything we talked about, but it comes down to that I may respond to my parents at some point. But if I do, it won't be anytime soon. I've started writing everything down that I want to say to my family and then my therapist, and I will go through things continuously. For those who asked, they haven't tried contacting me further. I will not be updating this issue anymore. Not on Reddit, including DMs or anyone else, in case of more fake updates. Nor will I be commenting unless it's something very important. I don't want to be rude and I appreciate all the support, but it is really draining sometimes. I was almost glad when the moderators locked the comments on the first post. I'd like to end by saying thanks again to all the people who have been wishing me well and checking up on me. And for the people writing to check that I'm still alive, don't worry. You don't have to do that. I'm off for work for a while and not by the computer much. I'm busy painting my garage. So, like I said, that's just ugh. But also, the people making fake updates. Are you kidding me? Like, I feel like I should say something since we're making these type of videos. Bro, what? There's so many real Reddit posts, you freaking dorks. Make some better content, not fake content. Anyway, next story. Story number 2. I, 30F, am feeling salty about the recent orgasm math with my partner, 28M. Did I ask for too much? I, 30F, have been very happy with my current partner, 28M, for more than a year now. He's been more attentive than any other, and not just in the bedroom, although it's often the best sex of my life. We moved in together 2.5 months ago. All my friends fully approve and can tell I've been really happy. He's usually so considerate and we have a great base of mutual respect. But the last 2 weeks have honestly left me feeling hurt, frustrated, and a little blindsided by the turn of events because we've never had any real issues. The story that led to my frustration. TLDR at the end. In the last 2 weeks, I came down with mononucleosis. My adventure with it included 2 trips to my GP doctor, one which the doc said and looked at me, "Your tonsils look terrible. Terrible." Was out of work for 8 days, had a trip to the ER, and I even had to cancel travel plans for a family member's funeral because I couldn't recover in time, which was super disappointing. My throat was nearly swollen shut for several days. I was eating ibuprofen around the clock and the pain was nearly unmanageable. After all that, the nausea and vomiting set in because I had so little in my stomach besides medications. I was miserable. Through all this, my boyfriend was super attentive, asking if I needed anything, and anxious to get me to eat and rest. He practically dragged me to the hospital because I'm super stubborn about seeking extra care, and I'm very anti-dependent, and I was in terrible shape. While this was all happening, he was still consistently initiating sex anytime I appeared to be semi-comfortable enough for any amount of time. There was a day or two I declined, and he was respectful of that, but most days I tried to give him some sexual attention, PIV or other shenanigans, often more than once. I know his sex drive is naturally higher than mine, and I ultimately do want to meet his needs. Yet, he was not reciprocating the effort to make sure I was satisfied during almost any of this. When I finally started to really feel better, and the last time we had sex, he did just enough to get me interested in sex, and when he finished before me, I nearly cried in frustration. A day later, after brooding and realizing we'd had no less than 8 intimate exchanges in a row, where there was very little in it for me, I let him have it and basically told him this: the next time we have sex, it better be freaking great for me or I'm going on strike. He laughed a little how I said it, and I replied that he was sorry if it had been subpar lately, and that the length of time in between things probably contributed to that. Honestly, brevity was not the issue. It was the blatant disregard for my satisfaction. He's very capable of satisfying me if he makes an effort. I went on. It really wasn't that long in between, and I was making such an effort even though I've been miserable because I know it's important to you. If you want to keep having good sex, if you want me to stay interested in our sexual relationship, I get to finish too. 80% of the time, or you're really going to have frequency issues because I'm going to lose interest and stop putting the effort in if it's not fun for me. You'll go back to relying on you and your sad hand. He didn't argue. He just said, okay, I got it. But there's been no sex since then. Honestly, I know I was too harsh. My frustration and emotional exhaustion got the better of me, but I also think it's fair for me to be frustrated. I compromised my comfort and made an effort while I was grieving and extremely ill to make sure his sexual needs were still met. For him to offer no reciprocation all week long really has me salty. I kind of feel like he has trespassed me on my generosity. Also, I'm not trying to be an a-hole and keep score, but I feel like one should naturally understand that if you're having an orgasm 99% to 100% sexual encounters together, and your partner is only climaxing 30% of those or less, the natural inclination for your partner to offer themselves up is going to dwindle. Is a female climaxing 80% of the time too much to ask, reasonably? This guy doesn't know how good he has it. What a fool, what an idiot, what a dim-witted peon. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to sex, sex is like a business transaction. It only works if everybody comes out on top. If both sides are not winning, then you failed at sex. Talk to your partners, people. Okay, I'm done. Bye.